Hey, good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into the Volquest podcast. I'm Eric Kane alongside Austin Price, Rob Lewis, and Brent Hubbs here on the Volquest podcast, talking Tennessee football. 8-4 regular season, a loss to Vanderbilt. What's coming next? Bowl destinations. What's the next steps for this program? Talking Tennessee basketball. A successful player era men's championship in Las Vegas. Couple of wins. Kind of where Tennessee basketball stands right now. Signing day in a couple of days. All that and more over the next 40 minutes or so right here on the Volquest podcast. Come join our family at the General's Quarters. A lot going on here in the month of December. Portals opening up, but there'll be a lot of portal speculation before it officially opens up the 1st of January, and signing day coverage, and a lot going on right here at Volquest.com. That's $1 for your first week at Volquest.com. All right, so just to tie a bow on what Saturday was, we've talked about it several times since then on the Rocky Top Rewind, the postgame mini pod. We've written about it. Tennessee falls to Vanderbilt 45-24. It was ugly. It was a horrific second half, Brent Hubbs, and one where Tennessee, there's going to be a lot of talking until Tennessee takes the field next, and unfortunately that's not going to be until next August.
Yeah, I mean, it just leaves a horrible taste in your mouth, and Tennessee played their worst 30 minutes of football of the Josh Heupel era. And, when you consider it was at home, it was against your in-state team. I'm not saying they didn't play worse football at some points in time, South Carolina in 22 and some different things like that, but that's as rough of a 30 minutes as Tennessee has played under Josh Heupel when you look at what happened the last 30 minutes or the last two quarters of that football game. I think that the question is for Tennessee fans, that taste is not going to go away, Austin. I think the question Tennessee fans have, what are they doing to improve it? What are they doing to fix? What are they doing to grow and to make sure that kind of moment doesn't happen again in Neyland Stadium?
Yeah, I mean they've got to make some big decisions, whether it be by the roster, the coaching staff, sports staff. I said this on Sunday. Tennessee's, they're not too far off the tracks here, right? I mean, this is maybe a couple of loose, bolts, but you got to tighten some things up. You're going to have to do a deep dive and look at yourself in the mirror and figure out what you want to be. Jason Swain on the locker room on his show on Monday called this team soft. That's former players saying that. You've seen that a number of times. I think you've got to be a tougher football team. Vanderbilt came in, they told you what they were going to do, and they did it. And that's a hard pill to swallow for Tennessee fans because they still look at Vandy as 2000 Vandy. They're not 2000 Vandy anymore, and it's a different era, but it's still hard to swallow. So going to have to look at yourself in the mirror and make some adjustments. You cannot go into next year with the status quo. You can't go into the portal and come up with just some average guys. You got to go get some real dudes that can help this football team in 2026.
Yeah, I think the problem with that obviously is it's just going to be like a slow burn, right? Again, I said not until next August. I mean, yeah, they got a bowl game coming up, but we'll see what that looks like. When it's officially announced on Sunday, but. The portal doesn't officially open until January. Signing day is coming up tomorrow, and so you lock down a class there. Is there any conversation about roster retention throughout the month of December, staff retention throughout the month of December? If so, what changes, what all that could mean? It's not all going to happen Monday morning right after the loss. It's going to be like kind of a week-by-week thing. I guess what I'm trying to say is, there's not going to be much to appease Tennessee fans until you kind of see a different result on the football field, just based off how bad Saturday was and how badly it ended.
Yeah, I mean, I think but that's what happens, Rob, when you do what you do in your last regular season game. The last time your fan base sees you play, I don't care what sport it is, if you no show, then it changes the outlook on things, and it dampens. For initially, it'll dampen some enthusiasm about some stuff. And then, fans will come around, they'll get revved up. They'll be all in on, whatever the roster looks like and that type of thing. But I mean, listen, this is a critical month. I wrote this on Monday. I mean, this is a different December than it's ever been before. Okay. You're not on the road going into homes, eating, 12 different suppers and, being in 8 different houses in 5 days. You're not one day with this coach, the next day with another coach. You're not flying back in, and sliding in time for an official visit in December. This is all about your program in the month of December now. It's different once signing day is over. You're not going out and doing anything. you're about roster retention, and you're about a straight evaluation of your program, that gives you the opportunity to do a deeper dive, Rob, than you've ever done before. And that's a dive that has to take place for this program. Again, Austin's right. It's not like it's off the rails, but you can't, I don't think anybody's looking for Josh Heupel to stand pat at where he's at right now with his program.
No, man, I'm not trying to throw chum in the water at all. But I mean, and Eric's talking about appeasing the fans. I think a staff change or two would appease a bunch of fans, and I think that's got to be part of a deep dive. I mean, was that, was the staff shortcomings part of why you kind of took a step back this year? And Hubbard, I mean, I think another reason. I mean, I know we all agree with it, but why it's you have to take a hardcore, honest look at yourself and your program is because, man, I mean, this league's always been hard, but man, it's harder than ever. I mean, it's Captain Obvious, but I mean, we live in a world where Vanderbilt can win 10 games. Oklahoma's coach can start the year on the hot seat and end it in the playoffs. I mean, LSU is getting ready to be really relevant. I'd bet a lot of money. Texas didn't exist in this league 3 years ago. Georgia and Alabama aren't going anywhere. And I mean, it's just, standing pat in this league is basically going backwards, like is my point. And I mean that whether you're talking about making sure you have the absolute best staff you can have, with your portal evaluations, how you stand on, developing high school guys versus how hard you go in the portal. I mean, it's a razor thin margin for error in this league. I mean, it always has been, but I think it's getting magnified more. I mean, Hubbard, how much money have athletic departments spent on buyouts in this league?
No,
that tells you what the stakes are.
Well, I mean, think about this. I mean, they've made moves. I mean, Kentucky makes a move 60 hours before signing day starts. Like that's an unheard of notion 15, 20 years ago. That just tells you we're, I mean, the margin for error is slamming here. And the other thing too, and this is not a criticism of fans in any way, shape, or form. You don't make changes to appease. You make changes to improve if you feel like that's what you need to do to improve. Okay? I mean, you're going to be judged as the head coach of whatever program it is at Tennessee, but particularly the football program. You're going to be judged by your wins and losses. Go win. What do you need to win? Do you have all the resources you need to win? Are you where you need to be from a staff standpoint, Austin? Are you where you need to be from a strength and conditioning standpoint, nutrition standpoint? Everything in your program should be, regardless of what happened the last 30 minutes against Vanderbilt, but everything in your program should be under evaluation every year in December. It should always be that way because you have to be the best version of your program year after year after year. And if you're at the top, everybody's chasing you. If you're not at the top, you're chasing everybody else. And it never stops. It's a 365-day chase, and you better be putting yourself in the best position to go chase the top. And I think that's what Josh Heupel has to determine, what gives his program the best opportunity to chase the top moving forward. And moving forward means next year. And then you evaluate it again after next year, just like you had to evaluate, and you should have evaluated it again, last year after you made the playoffs. It has to be a deep dive every December because of how much this league is changing and the commitment to winning that's in this league.
Yeah, you have to look at yourself and go, is this good enough? Is this staff championship level? Is this roster championship level? And if the answer for you is no, then you better go do something about it. Don't worry about being comfortable, because you're only going to get uncomfortable by sometimes being too comfortable. And so go and make the uncomfortable hire. Go and make the uncomfortable move to try to improve your team. You look around, what Nick Saban did. What did he do so well? He always adapted. He played games at 6-3, and then a handful of years later, they were playing them 50s and 40s, and he found ways to adapt. Josh Heupel's got to find ways to adapt. The roster has got to be better. I think they've got to go heavy to the portal, in certain spots, and you've got to find your happy place, to use the old movie line. You got to find your happy place on what it takes to succeed, and what is that?
And Eric, I think the interesting thing for coaches, whether it's Josh Heupel or anybody, is that balance of, well, we were 3 plays away.
Yep.
We were 4 plays away versus blowing everything up. Where's the line between how close you were and how far away you were? Because we talk, Rob and Eric, about the margins being small. That line's pretty thin, and it's very easy to get into the, well, we're 3 plays away deal if you're not careful. The same way you got to be careful and go, hey, we spent 5 years building this thing. There's a lot of good things going on here. You don't have to blow it up either.
No, I mean, I completely agree. Go look at the Georgia game. I mean, from a national perspective, everybody says, oh, Tennessee put up a ton of points, just missed it on the wire, missed a field goal. Man, what a great game. Tennessee fans know Tennessee had about 17 chances to win that game, and it didn't. But nobody remembers the missed field goal, from a national perspective. It's just Tennessee came up short against Georgia. You look at Tennessee against Vanderbilt, 24 points. Look at Tennessee against Alabama, 20 points. 20 points. But then again, you look at Tennessee's offense against some other teams, and there should be a conversation there against some of the better defenses. What went wrong? What happened? But overall, the deep dive happened last year where your offense just didn't strike fear into anybody. I mean, it ran the football very well, okay, but the aerial attack just wasn't there, and it got creative, and you saw the route tree expand a little bit, and you saw pre-snap motion, and that was good. Those were good things. Need to do that on the defensive side of the football for sure. Because, again, to your point, you had these same coaches, a lot of the same personnel. You were a very good defense last year, 2 years ago. This past year, you weren't. And I know you lost a first-round pick in James Pierce, and you lost a safety that was a walk-on that nobody wanted to play, but turned out to be really good for you. You lost a couple other players. But what went wrong? Injuries are a part of it. I recognize that. Jerron McCoy's not out there. Ricky Gibson spent a lot of time with no defensive tackle help. I get some of that. But overall, what went wrong? And so I completely agree. You can't blow everything up, but you can't just sit here and say, well, we were one player, this play away. You got to go in. You got to go in and attack what you did on the offensive end last offseason. Apply it to both sides of the ball this year, specifically defense, and kind of see what can happen, what can change, and how you can improve. Because Tennessee's offense certainly improved. Now, again, it was not a finished product. It did not play well against Vanderbilt. Again, I mentioned Alabama. It did not protect well against Oklahoma, Alabama, Vanderbilt, but it was significantly better this year than what it was this time last year.
Well, but I think I think the other thing too, Rob, is that it's not an X's and O's only conversation. And I know Eric's not saying that it is, but I mean, the deep dive has to be everything. Practice habits, strength and conditioning. I mean, you got former players questioning, as Austin mentioned earlier. I mean, Joey Aguilar said, hey, you got to take practice more seriously, or whatever that comment was. That was kind of a throwaway in the post game there. All of those things are on the table that have to be looked at as a coach. That's your job as the CEO of your program, is to look at everything, not just get on the grease board and start drawing up some different things schematically as well.
Yeah, I mean, don't you think most – I'm talking about rational fans. I mean, people that are stroking 5-figure checks for donations and, spending 6 Saturdays a year, taking a lot of trouble to get there. I don't think people those people aren't freaking out. I mean, they're really appreciative of what Josh Heupel's done. They remember 0-8 in the SEC. They remember embarrassment, firing Jeremy Pruitt. I mean, they're like, Josh, we're very appreciative, man. Playoffs are great, but can you tighten some things up? Because I mean, I feel like that's where most people are. Like, coach, don't take this the wrong way, but hey, we could be a little better. But at the same time, man, thanks for everything you've done. It's so much better. But we live in a rich neighborhood, and we don't have the best house on the street at all.
Well, and everybody around you in this league is making moves and doing things that creates. Austin, by nature, it's the new car syndrome, right? And the guy next door gets a new car. There's somebody in your house probably going, well, it'd be nice to have a new car, type deal. And so that mentality approaches a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think the takeaway from people listening to this is it's by no means any kind of disaster. Okay. And so once you get past the anger of it and you start to take a look at it, there's a lot of good things that are done, and 30 bad minutes of football should not erase all those things. The question that people have, whether they're high-level donors or low-level donors or no donors or message board posters or whatever, Austin, is there's another step. Can you make that? Can you make the next step? What is the next step that you need to get to, and how do you get there? And I think Josh Heupel has to ask himself that question as well. That's part of the deep dive.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's not everyone wants to throw it at Tim Banks, and obviously the defense, was not what it was a year ago, and part of that was injuries, and probably part of it was not. They weren't very good against the run at points and times over the year. But it all goes back to, Josh Heupel's the head coach, and he has to answer some tough questions about himself. He has to answer some tough questions about his team, about his staff. You have the portal coming up. Everybody has money now, and so when you get down to trying to recruit kids in the portal, it's not just as simple as let's just go buy one. I mean, that might happen 1 of every 5. The other 4 out of 5, the money's comparable, and it comes down to the old pilot in the box, the old, relationships in recruiting, old school recruiting, in my opinion. I think this thing's leveled out pretty hard because now everybody has money. And so to me, that's going to be one of the questions that, to me, he has to answer and his staff has to answer is, can you go win one of those battles when the money is the same, when the money's even? Can you go win those battles in the month of January? Because I think you're going to need to do it. But yeah, it's not just a one person, problem. It's a problem with a broad brush that has to be fixed.
Having said that, though, and AP and Brent, you guys are more in the weeds on this than I am, certainly. So please tell me where I'm wrong here. I think this is a big time month in terms of roster retention. Like, you got to be smart on how much money you're giving somebody. And you can't just give a raise just to give a raise. A lot of times, that's just kind of where you are. But, you got to be really, really smart, because if you give an extra X amount of money to this player, well, those X amount of monies kind of add up. And then that forfeits your ability to go get that player you want in the transfer portal. Roster retention is legit. That's what Tennessee did last December. Tennessee was not active in the portal. Tennessee focused on keeping the roster together, and there was a lot of good decisions in that regard, right? Look, Chris Brazel, Mike Matthews, Braylon Staley, phenomenal wide receiver. There's some other examples of which, but you got to be really smart on how you go about that this December, because in my opinion, Austin, you can't just give a raise to give a raise to somebody, right? A lot of times that's kind of where you are, but you might have to make some hard decisions is what I'm trying to get at.
No, absolutely. I said this last time in the locker room. I think you got to look at it the way Tony looked at his baseball team when they got put out in Arkansas last year. Who can we not afford to lose? Who are the guys I'm rolling with into 2026? Everybody else is expendable. And then go and build around that. I think that's how you have to look at it. You got to know, who can't I, afford to not lose? Who do I have to keep? Who's my ride or dies on this football roster that'll be back in 2026? And those are the ones you focus on locking down. Those are the ones that you take care of. If you're able to get more than that with other guys that at a good value number, that you're not overspending and overpaying, you absolutely do it. And otherwise, you go build around your ride or dies. And that's how I'm looking at it. Kind of how Vitello did his group. He had how many was it, Eric? 10 or 12 players or whatever it was.
I want to say it was 11.
Whatever. The point, what I'm saying. He said, these are my guys.
Yep.
And now let's go build around it. And I think that's what you have to do on a much bigger scope with football this offseason.
That's a good point. It is a good point. On the note about looking around the SEC, it was a wild Sunday, tons of changes. And then Sunday night, Kentucky fires Mark Stoops. That's another change. And you look at all the new hires and all that, and that's going to create some conversations on, will this lead to maybe trying to poach a recruit before signing day? We'll get into that here in just a moment, Austin. But could an Alex Golish, who's now at Auburn, go and get an assistant or two from Tennessee's staff? Could, Silverfield at Arkansas go and get an assistant or two from the staff? Could any ripple type effect throughout the month of December that we should be wary of? Yeah,
I think, every coach, especially ones that are on expiring contracts, is one that, you have to worry about. I think Tennessee's going to try to get a deal done with Kelsey Pope, lock him in. Obviously everybody's going to tie Rodney to Auburn. I think it depends on what Alex Golish wants to do with his defense. And who's going to run that defense? Are they able to get a deal done with DJ Durkin for him to stay, or is he going in a different direction? Because obviously I think that would alter kind of what, Auburn wants to do. You've seen Joey Halsey's name pop up, Brent, on a couple of OC hot boards. He's one of the coaches that is on an expiring deal. Is he wanting to go in a different direction just because he's been so tied to Josh? I guess time will tell. But, I mean, again, I think it all bears watching over the next few weeks. I think the biggest thing for me is if Josh has change, no matter whether it's on the offensive side, defensive side, whatever, he better be quick to fill it. In the past, he's kind of taken forever to hire guys. I mean, even when Golish left and you promoted Halsley, the tight end's job stayed open for like a month and a half or 2 months, and he interviewed Jeff Ferris and Abelin, maybe one more before he finally promoted Abelin. You can't afford to do that now with the portal in January. You can't have open positions. If you can do that, if you can get it done, you don't need to wait until February to get things done. You need to turn those hires around as quickly as possible. That way you don't lose your current team because they want to know who's going to be coaching them as well.
Which is a fascinating piece to all this, Rob, when you think about it, because the focus on having your staff assembled is now all about 2 weeks in January. It's not about the first Wednesday in December, which I just find, and again, there's nothing wrong with it, but if you want to lay out where college football lies right now, there's so much more emphasis. And I'm not saying you don't recruit players. You have to build high school players. But to sit here and to think that you can go – I mean, Penn State is poised to go through signing day and not have a staff and not have a coach. And that's okay, because if they get everything in place, then they'll go swinging hard in the portal. It's just such a different place where college football is right now.
I agree. It's hard to get your head around. And I would say – I mean, I don't know this, but Penn State could still whiff, but they didn't rush and hire maybe the wrong guy. Like I think maybe 2 or 3 teams have already done. I mean, they still may not get it right. Waiting isn't guaranteed, but they didn't panic. And, I commend them for that. But you're right. That wouldn't have been an option, even 3 years ago or 2 years ago, without the change in the calendar and how hard you can go in the portal. But it's wild, man.
Well, I mean, all of it's crazy. It's not just that. I mean, the whole coaching carousel and hires. I mean, the stories that you're hearing coming out of, this program, wanted to bring in. I mean, there's talk at Florida that part of the Kiffin issue was that Florida was bringing in an NFL GM to run it, and like that means you couldn't bring your guys. You couldn't bring all of your people with you. I mean, the whole layer, like Virginia Tech hiring a GM before they hire a coach, and all of that evolving landscape is pretty fascinating through this coaching cycle that you're seeing as well, and kind of where some ADs seem to want to take things. I mean, there's word that Florida's consulting with the Philadelphia Eagles on how to lay out a scouting department and let the coach just focus on coaching. And like, man, that is such a hard adjustment for college football to get to where, Austin, in one breath, you're talking about old school recruiting. What's your term? Pilot in the box or pilot in the cockpit, or, where those guys are going to be the guys on the ground who are going to do old school recruiting and relationships. But then maybe they don't have a say in what their position group's going to look like from a who you get, who you don't get. Hey, go put your boots in the ground and recruit people, but here's the following 6 people you're allowed to go recruit. That is such a hard change for a sport who's done it so differently for so long. Man, that's not an easy transition to make. I don't care if it's a new coach or not a new coach. I think that's hard.
And it's hard for old coaches.
Sure it is.
Or want to eval and pick their own players. They don't want somebody that is 30 years old telling them what to do, and that's hard.
Well, man, I mean, Hubbard, don't you think part of it, or AP, you too, that ADs are trying to take some power away from coaches a little bit? But I could be wrong. It feels that way to me. But until you stop signing to the $50 and $60 million buyouts, I don't care how many GMs or guardrails you put in place for player evaluations. It's what is it? If you owe the bank like $200, the bank owns you. But if you owe the bank $200,000, you got a partner, kind of thing.
I mean, look at the LSU governor, or the Louisiana governor came out and said, "We're not doing these big buyout deals. We're not doing these crazy contracts. This is just fiscal irresponsibility." And then what they do? They went and signed Lane to the similar type deal that Brian Kelly had.
And they're also giving him the bonus money he would have made if he was the Ole Miss head coach still through the playoff run, which to me is just a mind-boggling deal. But it's interesting because some coaches are bringing all their people, their chiefs of staff, their GMs, and all those things. And in other places, they're trying to marry two people together. I think the Florida one is really fascinating to me because I don't know that those two guys have any kind of relationship with each other at all. So now you're going into that situation. It's like, who's got control and who's supposed to have control? And, is the AD going to – how many tug of wars is the AD going to be involved in? At Cal, they brought in Ron Rivera and just told him, hey, you're in charge of football. And he just went and fired Justin Wilcox because he had carte blanche to do whatever he wants to do. How many of them are going to be set up like that, Rob? How many of them are going to be – I just think all of this is such a transitional phase in layout of your staff and layout of the flow. Is it flow chart? I don't know. What did you call it in the working world? Where who's in charge of what? I guess it's a flow chart and who's responsible for what. It's just different than it's been. And man, I don't know. It feels like some people are trying to shove a square peg through a round hole a little bit here. And I'm going to be fascinated to see how some of that works out.
Hey, college football fans, it's time to lock in those Saturday showdowns, the conference championship weekend coming up with BetMGM. Whether you're betting the underdog or riding with the favorite, take your excitement to that next level with the College Football Odds Boost token. Log into your BetMGM account app and receive your token. Then place the bet on any college football matchup with your activated token, and if your boosted bet hits, you'll score a bigger payout. Claim your Odds Boost token and be sure to activate it before placing the bet. The game is about to kick off, so feel the rush and own the moment. BetMGM, where you can make it legendary. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus or older. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in U.S. Call 1-800-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. NY. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP-AZ. 1-800-327-5050-MA. 1-800-BETS-OFF-IA. 1-800-981-0023-PR. First bet offer for new customers only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotels. Big thanks to our friends over at BetMGM. And also, we want to give a shout out to Whataburger here on the Volquest podcast. When first unwrapping your Whataburger, you find yourself awestruck by what's in front of you. Hot, fresh, made to order, never frozen beef. Consider it a masterpiece. Whataburger, just like you like it. A new place on the Strip, a new place coming in Powell, just right down the road. Whataburger, just the way you like it. Interesting times in college football around the SEC and certainly at Tennessee football, as the month of December is going to be filled with conversation, staff, roster retention. You're already seeing a couple of players announcing intentions to enter the transfer portal. The transfer portal doesn't open up until a month away, right? But you're going to get a lot of these, not just at Tennessee, everywhere. My intention is to enter the transfer portal to kind of start that whole process. A lot going on right here, and we can follow it at Volquest.com. Let's transition real quick. Before we talk hoops, let's talk about recruiting. Final hours here. Home stretch, AP. Signing day's coming up tomorrow. Anything we need to know, and again, let's make this abundantly clear, disclaimer. We're recording this now. 5 minutes later, it can change, okay? But anything we need to know about current commits heading into Wednesday?
As we said here late on Monday when we taped this, it feels like all the guys Tennessee has had committed feel pretty solid. Celessi Moa took the visit to Michigan. Don't think much come out of it. He's been in touch with Kelsey Pope several times since he got back from Michigan. Tristan Keys has been to Knoxville numerous times over the last month. This kid's basically living here to a degree. So I don't think, I'm not going to say that Lane's not going to try to call him, but I just think that one feels like it's pretty buttoned up and pretty quiet for a high-profile guy that was once committed to LSU. He feels pretty solid to Tennessee at this point in time. As for guys that are committed elsewhere, J.J. Finch, that's a Tennessee-Bama deal. He's committed to Bama, but Tennessee's come on pretty hard there over the last month or so. It feels like Tennessee's trending, but Alabama's certainly trying to sway the momentum back their direction as of late on Monday. And then we'll see what happens with Jordan Carter, or otherwise known as Brees Carter. That's a Georgia Tech, Tennessee, Auburn battle. And depending on who you talk to, they tell you it's either Georgia Tech, Tennessee, or Auburn, Tennessee. The one constant there is Tennessee. And so we'll see what happens with him. Carter Gooden is a defensive lineman from Canada. Tennessee, UCLA, Vanderbilt, the top three for him. Came in measured, 6'4", 250, and had 34-inch arms. So, kid physically has what you're looking for from the measurable standpoint. I think Tennessee's still in a pretty good spot for Nuke Simmons, the cousin of former Georgia defensive end Jarvis Jones. He was here over the weekend. Feel like things are trending pretty hard there. And then the Foley kid, the punter from Australia, I think Tennessee's in line to continue that pipeline. Should see an announcement come tomorrow.
Austin, could there be any commits that go the David Sanders route and wait a day or two before they sign, or do you think this should all be buttoned up, ready to roll tomorrow morning? Because typically Tennessee gets all that hay in the barn by lunchtime.
Yeah, I think that's the plan. Could somebody come out of left field? Sure, but I don't know if anybody, as we said here, taping this, and it certainly feels like Tennessee, should be pretty status quo when it comes to what they normally do tomorrow.
Who were some of these guys that expect to be here for bowl practices later in the month?
There's going to be a good chunk of the class. Too many to name, to be honest with you. But, that's pretty normal. Last year, they had 3 kids that did an early enrollee. And, I'd say 85% of those kids were here for bowl practice. That's just kind of where things go. And, I'm interested to kind of see how Tennessee takes that with them not being in the playoff and not being in the Orange Bowl. How do they approach bowl practice this year with players? I'm interested to see where Tennessee even goes bowling, Eric. I think Tennessee football needs a win. I think Tennessee needs also to get any kind of juice. I think the sexiest matchup you can get would be the best possible scenario for Josh Heupel and company. I don't know what that is, but I think you want something for fans to get excited about, because right now they don't have a whole lot of excitement. And recruiting, is going to come and go pretty quick, and then it'll be on to what's going to happen with the portal. So, and a lot of innuendo, a lot of chatter, and not a lot of announcements over the next 30 days outside of what the agents decide to release.
Now, here's the interesting thing about that too is how many schools around the country, I don't want to say want to get the bowl game over with, but for lack of better words, want to get it over with because the portal opens on the 2nd.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want to be traveling. Do you want to be traveling back that day? Or do you want to get it behind you and then you've got 3 or 4 days, 5 days to get yourself reset and ready to go to hit the ground running the moment that portal opens, to have somebody on your campus for a visit, all of those types of things. I think that's a unique part of this. Playing a bowl game on January 2nd, that's not a playoff game. Is that real attractive to anybody? When all your focus is on the portal?
Yeah, in a perfect world, I think you don't really want to play January or December 27th in the Gator Bowl, but that probably would line up for what you're talking about. Whereas, what is the Duke's Mayo Bowl?
You do not want the Duke's Mayo Bowl. That is 8 o'clock on January the 2nd.
Well, you know what? To be honest with you, that to me is the predicament for the head coach, because I've always joked that if he ever ended up in that game, it'd be the one game he would intentionally try to lose to avoid getting the mayonnaise bath. But I don't think Heupel can really afford to lose a bowl game. So I think it's an interesting thing where, what happens there. I do think maybe you could get Mark Packer to come in and take the mayonnaise bath for him, since he loves mayonnaise so much.
Well, on the serious note, I do think that if you're one of these schools that's in a bowl game and you're not playing in a playoff game, maybe you like LSU. Do you think LSU wants to drag out anything with a bowl game, or they're just ready to turn the page, Rob, and get started with all the portal stuff and get building? And I think even Tennessee, if you're not in the playoff deal, don't you want to, I don't want to say play all of them before Christmas, but almost the quicker you get it done to put all of your focus on moving forward with roster management and the transfer portal, I think that's what coaches want to sign up for more than they do, whether it's a warm, sunny environment or even the matchup or anything else. I think there's a a thought out there of like, hey, get it behind us and get moving to assembly the next, because that 2 weeks is going to be the most critical weeks of the year for a lot of coaches out there.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's been trending this way for the last few years, with the more and more opt-outs, the playoffs taking, shine off of bowl season. But I don't think the bowls are going to go away. I mean, I don't think they should. But man, I think you're going to see a lot of them this year are going to be just, whew, that's a bad look on TV.
Well, I think you have to look at it from the standpoint too of Austin's just no longer the event. It's not the week-long event. Like, I mean, it's expensive. You don't make any money off the bowls as a team. It was always perceived as a reward and all those things. Now it feels like it's more of an exhibition game, kind of evaluate some guys and what you're doing there, but it's costing you a lot of money to do that. I don't think we ever get to that point, but instead of it, you spending 7 days somewhere, do you go and spend 3 days as opposed to all of that? Just from a cost-saving standpoint, I don't know. Man, I mean, bowl games are going to be hard for bowls and bowl sponsors. They're hard now. They're only going to get harder with the expanded playoff, and it's going to get harder and harder to ask schools to make that kind of commitment when you talk about the portal and everything that you're going to be dealing with right around the first of the year.
I'll continue to say that the commissioner needs to do a better job of getting the fans for this league in better bowl destinations. Like, nobody in this league wants to go to Charlotte. Nobody wants to go to Birmingham. Nobody wants to go to Nashville even.
Not in January. If
you want to do that, if you're going to put them in a cold weather bowl, then put them up there in the Pinstripes Bowl. In the Pinstripes Bowl, people love to go to New York City. They go to Vegas. I mean, from a pure fans perspective, I think Houston would be more appealing than Charlotte just because it's different. I mean, so I think the bowls are going to get away from being this week-long thing. I agree with you. It's kind of like spring practice. It's slowly morphed for some. I think bowls will slowly morph for others. Because it is not. I mean, you're not going. When back in the old days, you'd get down there and you'd do the team competition down there at the Music City Bowl at the one of those saloons downtown, or if you're in Tampa, you had to go to the beach day or tug of war or whatever that stuff. That stuff's just. I mean, it's gone way of the dodo bird. So
nobody's too excited about the gift bags anymore in NIL era.
Correct. There you go.
By the way, I did not have Dodo Bird on my bingo card for the podcast, so good one. I enjoyed that one.
Also, to your point too, I mean, like a lot of these teams play in those neutral site kickoff classic games in Atlanta and in Charlotte, like like a lot of these SEC teams are in this area already and then play in these cities. So it's kind of like, I mean, again, I would love to expand the bowls.
Well, and here's the thing too, with the expanded extra game in the conference and the way you're rotating the conference, are people more interested in trying to get a ticket to go to a place in this league they haven't been to for that atmosphere than they are money for a bowl trip? Now, obviously, if you're a playoff team and you're going to spend your money differently there, but I think that's part of it too. I think there's some fascinating, we can do this on a podcast on a different date, but I think there's some fascinating things with this league that are going to evolve. I mean, tonight the playoff rankings are going to be announced, and Texas is going to sit there and go, why didn't we play UTSA instead of Ohio State? Because if we beat UTSA and we don't lose to Ohio State, we're in. We're in. We're a 2-loss team, and we're in all likelihood in. That question's going to, and that's a different podcast, but there's some things brewing, I think, within this league that are going to have to be some really serious discussions with the league commissioner and the league office about what's ultimately best for the league moving forward in the sport of football.
Yeah, I mean, I would never went to 9 games. I would have went to 9 games only if Notre Dame agreed to actually get in the conference. The fact you're letting them continue to do that song and dance and get away with what they get away with, and you're now playing 9 games, it's just dumb.
1,000,000%, AP.
Well, it's the 9 games plus the 1.
Yes.
That's the thing. Is like nobody else is making you do the 1. What's the 1 worth? I mean, it's a great first week matchup, but what was it worth to? It didn't bother Ohio State when you looked at the rest of their schedule. But was it worth Texas going to Columbus, Ohio to win it? They don't get any credit for losing They played them closer than anybody has in the all season long. Are they getting any credit for it?
Mm-mm.
So what are the point of those games? I think that is a serious discussion that this league has to look at moving forward.
Yeah, Texas is going to miss the playoffs because of that game. And if they played literally anybody else and beat them by 100 like everybody else, is what it is. And again, that's a conversation for another day. But that it really is. And Texas, a 3-loss team, again, go down there and beat Florida. Like, who couldn't beat Florida this year? Tennessee beat Florida in the Swamp, right? But you play another game there, you're in the playoffs. All this to say, the only person in the world that's going to be excited about this is our producer, Megan. But this is setting up for Tennessee and Nebraska to be in the Gator Bowl, right?
A lot of the tax layer stuff bowl I've seen. Maybe Miami if they don't get in. I don't know. Again, where does Tennessee land?
I'm just saying it's going to be like the most boring matchup imaginable.
But again, it may or may not. From an attractiveness standpoint, it may be a team that is a quote blue blood or whatever. But what does your roster look like? What does their roster look like? All of those things make bowl games really challenging, regardless of who the opponent is. And that's something that, again, I think is a discussion that this league has to look at, that college football has to look at. And it's among many things this league, I think, has to look at this offseason. Listen, we're getting ready to come out of the whole 4 months of everything's great, and we're getting ready to get back to hearing about all the problems in college football. We'll see if they can fix anything in 6 or 7 months before we get back to everything's great again, because that's the cycle that is college football.
Couple minutes here before we end this edition of the Volquest podcast. Let's turn our attention to Tennessee basketball. Rob Lewis, the Players Era Men's Championship in Las Vegas. Stubbed your toe, missed opportunity, kind of a sour way to end, especially considering Kansas was down a couple of players and you led that game by double digits. But a really nice win over Houston and blew out Rutgers like everybody anticipated. A lot of different storylines we can go to. I think one player that stood out throughout that week of play was Bishop Boswell, and kind of his not necessarily his emergence, because he was kind of penciled in as kind of that two guard the entire time, but he kind of showed you why, man. He had a really good week out there in Vegas.
I think especially against Houston in a really high level basketball game. I think a lot of people who questioned, why Rick has such faith in him kind of saw, the different things that he brings to the table, and just, kind of the way he embodies, sort of everything that Rick wants out there on the floor in terms of, hustle, competitiveness, basketball IQ, leadership. And, good week for Bishop, and man, almost a great week for Tennessee. I still think they had the best win of that tournament. When you consider the matchup and the coaches and the rematch factor, but like you said, EC stubbing their toe, it just prevented them from strutting out of Vegas, with their chest out. They had a great week. That was a great win. Everybody. That was the epicenter of college basketball last week. That thing has killed Maui. It's killed them all, and it's only going to get worse. When it expands next year. But my point being, the focus of everybody that's involved in college basketball media was on that tournament. They saw what Tennessee's ceiling is on Tuesday against Houston. That everybody left last week around the country with big time respect for Tennessee, and losing to Kansas took some shine off of that, but it didn't change anybody's opinion of what this team is capable of.
By the way, that might be the best Rick Barnes quote on Monday that Rick Barnes has given in a long time, Rob Lewis, about his team. Last year's team couldn't have beat Houston, but last year's team sure wouldn't have lost to Kansas. I thought that was put as well for a guy who drifts off into storyland when he's trying to make his point sometimes. That was about as succinct as you can get on what kind of how he summed up Las Vegas.
Yeah, exactly. He was, I'm not going to say he's happy that they lost to Kansas. That would be 100% incorrect, but he's definitely going to use that to their benefit. And, we all talked about, or at least, me and others talked about how bad Tennessee was in the second half, and Kansas, just Tennessee couldn't get a stop. Coach, sees things that nobody else does. He said that, they as a staff saw it in the first 3 possessions of the game where they didn't do, Kansas didn't blitz them necessarily, but Tennessee just didn't do anything they talked about on the defensive end. And those are the kind of details, however, that he's talking about with that quote. Like last year's team, against that Kansas team, they would have drilled down, on the finer points of that scouting report. and taking Kansas out of what they wanted to do. And in a way, this team, I think this team's ceiling is higher for sure. And I'll be surprised if they don't get there. And it's not a surprise that they aren't there, Thanksgiving week. But, just a disappointment the way they lost that one to Kansas. But not a huge deal because, again, they showed their hand against Houston.
Rob, what's your assessment of Nate Ament? I mean, he's winning he's going to win the Freshman of the Week honor apparently every week in the SEC. What do you like about what he's done so far? Where does he need to grow? What did you take away from his performance in Las Vegas, and what do you expect to see him maybe improve from as they go through this next stretch of games, which is Syracuse, obviously, and Illinois, and what's on the horizon for them?
Well, I mean, we can all see what he needs to improve on. However, he needs to add 30 pounds, which is not going to happen as a freshman in college. I mean, it's going to happen a few years down the road. He's going to be beating some people up, but what there aren't many teams like Houston that play with that kind of physicality that are going to be able to affect Nate that way. And he was affected, but I think it's not a surprise that his with his frame and build that he's going to be affected against older, bigger dudes like that. I think what should maybe be your bigger takeaway is he didn't back down from it at all. I mean, he kept going in there. He got he was on the glass that game. I can't remember if he had 8 or 10 boards that game, but he was a factor, and he didn't shy away from it. And the next night he came back, and the first 2 or 3 times down court, he put the ball on the floor and went to the rack with it. So I mean, Nate's maturity. I mean, just for a kid his age to take the coaching that coach throws at him is pretty wildly impressive. I mean, he's super smart. To have everything that comes his way, he's incredibly humble. Whatever his potential is, man, he's going to get it. And I mean, Hubbard, I think he'll be one of the best players in this league. I mean, Jacoby's going to have the ball in his hands so much that it's going to be hard not to say that he's Tennessee's most important player. But I bet you when they need a bucket, with 5 seconds left in March, I bet Nate gets the call.
I think we also saw this rotation really kind of shrink down, and you got a glimpse of like kind of what this is actually going to look like in SEC play. He's been playing his entire bench, it feels like, but in that game against Houston and Kansas, I mean, that really, really shrunk down. Wouldn't you agree? Well,
I mean, he didn't play Dwayne Brown last week, and I just think some of that was, freshman throwing a freshman in that game against Houston. I think Dwayne's going to be a factor. The bigger, I think Ethan Berg is certainly going to help this team, but boy, coach sent him a message in that I guess, was that Kansas, Hubbard, when he had the turnover, or Houston? I can't remember which night it was, but it happened with 14 minutes left, and he didn't come back. Same thing for Troy Henderson. Now, Troy, I think, is one that he got a message sent big time. That was definitely against Kansas. He didn't pick up a guy in transition, fouled him, 3-point play. That's the one. I mean, I think coach wants to play him and is certainly going to give him some more rope, but that's a mistake he can't make. But I've questioned him being able to play 10 forever, but it seemed Troy and Dwayne, I don't think their minutes are going to go away. Whether they keep having defined 6, 8, 10 minutes a night, I think that's a bigger mystery.
Go from Las Vegas to Syracuse, ACC SEC Challenge. Any notes going into this big matchup later tonight?
I mean, it's just kind of neat. I mean, I don't know about neat or unusual, but you talk about a scout. I mean, they were both in Vegas last week. I mean, Tennessee and already have a common opponent. So you talk about two teams that are going to know each other well this early in the season. I mean, and Syracuse, by far their best game of the year. They took Houston to overtime in the first game out there, and then played Kansas kind of tough, lost by double digits, and got beat by 30 against Iowa State. And in the last game, we're ready to get out of there. So, I mean, they're going to be tough and gritty. They don't have a lot of punch inside. I think Tennessee should have a big advantage there. But, on the road against, an ACC team, so you don't take anything for granted, but they are not off to a great start.
Last thing, AP, your thoughts on Tennessee undefeated playing in the third-place game?
You know where it stands. It's just dumb. But whatever, just fix that for next year. You can call the other game the championship game. I'm okay with that. But if two teams are undefeated, call them that the third place game.
They just need to have two different brackets.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, don't you think that? I mean, aren't they going to end up going to this thing, morphing it out to like 32 teams?
Yeah. 32 teams next year, right, Rob?
Yeah, like I said, it's going to kill Maui and Bahamas and all that.
I mean,
at least until everybody else starts paying people.
Well, I mean, A, it's the paycheck. B, it's the level of the competition, and B, it's the ease of the travel.
I was going to say how
That's
much
a big
easier.
deal. That's a big deal for this head coach, for Rick Barnes. I mean,
Mhm.
he flat out told me after the last trip to Maui, we're done with that trip.
And I tell you what else he does not like, although since they're getting paid, he'll do it. Playing 3 in 3 days. Like him and the old guys, not necessarily the old guys. I mean, I think a lot of coaches don't. They much prefer, like you only at Atlantis and some of the other ones, you don't play 3 in 3 days. You play 2. And I wouldn't be surprised if they don't tweak that in the players area. Maybe you still play 3, but not in 3 days.
Yeah.
Another thing the head coach didn't like, not knowing who he was going to play until midnight Eastern time, I guess.
Yeah. So there's some things to work on, but I do think, one, they're going to keep writing teams checks, which is a big reason why everybody's going to be there. But two, I do think there's ultimately probably more positives than negatives to it, which is why a lot of people are going to try to get into that tournament and why that tournament's going to grow if they can keep financially supporting it.
100%.
A lot going on right now, Volquest.com. If you're listening to us, watching us, and not a member of the site, we do thank you, but come join us. $1 for your first 7 days. If you like us after that, what about a little stocking stuffer? Buy a Volquest.com membership subscription for your stocking this Christmas, this holiday season. Buy one for that Tennessee fan in your life. You can test us out, $1 for your first 7 days, and there's a lot going on right now. Signing days tomorrow, basketball in Syracuse, football, what's next, what's going to happen here. A lot going on right now. So portal's going to be opening next month, but there's going to be a lot of portal talk throughout this month of December. So don't miss anything. Don't miss any notes on the General's Quarters. Don't miss any rational, awesome, great conversation on the General's Quarters and over at Volquest.com. So come check us out. For Awesome Price, Rob Lewis, Brent Hubbs, I'm Eric Kane. Appreciate you guys for joining us here on the Tuesday morning Volquest podcast.